Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet and Crime, where I crochet and I tell true crime stories. Today I'll be talking about Joe Methany. Joe Methany is one of the most craziest cases I will ever talk about, and I know I say that about a lot of the cases that I talk about, but this case is actually really, really wild. So yeah, I would like to put out a quick disclaimer. This story does talk about cannibalism, and it does brush over like very descriptive um, points in like the crime scenes and stuff. So if you're not into that, I suggest you click away from this video. And yeah, with that, let's get into it. During his childhood, Joe would claim his parents were neglectful and that his father was an alcoholic. He had 5 other siblings, and Joe and his siblings would bounce from home to home. Not necessarily a foster home situation, but his mother would pay other families to take care of Joe and his siblings. When Joe was 6 years old, his father died in a car accident, so his mother had to step up to raise all of these kids by herself. And she had to work 2 jobs in order to keep the kiddos with a roof over their head and food in their mouths. When Joe was 18, he joined the military, and during this time he got addicted to heroin and cocaine. So when he left the military, he had no contact with his family, and he basically just doped up the entire time he was out, and he would live on the streets and do drugs with other homeless people. His temper and addiction was known in the homeless community, and he was also known to be very confident and sweet at first, but then as you got to know him, he became more aggressive because of, his addiction. He eventually landed a job as a forklift driver, and he met this lady who we have no record of what her name was, so Joe and Mystery Lady fall in love, they get married, and they have a child together. One night in 1994, Joe gets home from work and he notices that the house is like surprisingly quiet. Like normally like his wife would be like blaring music, or his child would be like screaming about something, like as children do. But like it was like deathly quiet. And so Joe enters the home and he sees that nearly nothing is left in the home. And so, like, not even, like, the wife or the child are at home. So he's like, okay, she left me and she took the baby. Great. Well, it's not a baby. It was, like, a 6-year-old. But, it's a baby. Anyways, he's like, great. Great. The next 6 months pass and still no sign of his wife or his child. And so Joe goes and buys drugs from his dealer, and his dealer tells Joe that Joe's wife moved in with another guy across town, and their son got taken away because he was like neglected by his mother, and he was also being abused by his mother. And so Joe's kid is gone, his wife has found a new man, and she's working as a sex worker to pay for her druggy drugs. Woof. Joe is determined to get his kid back, so he asks the dealer, like, where is his wife at, or, like, where does she hang around, and Joe ends up at this bridge with 2 homeless guys. These 2 homeless guys are just hanging out under the bridge, and Joe walks up and he asks where his wife and kid are to, like, these 2 homeless guys, and, like, these homeless guys are like, never heard these names before, like, what's new? And so Joe, the heroin-filled, short-tempered man he is, doesn't take this as an answer, and he makes up this whole narrative in his mind that these guys are banging his wife and keeping her away from Joe. So he takes an axe that he had and chops up these 2 homeless folk. So an hour passes and Joe is like still like his mind is like, oh my god, I just killed these people, but his mind is also filled with heroin, and he's like, I need to find my goddamn baby mama, my goddamn baby. So he finds a nearby sex worker and he offers her drugs and other weird stuff, and he lures her near where he just killed those other two guys, like not right where he killed those two guys, but near where he killed those two guys. And he asks her if she knew where his wife and kid were, and she says no, she's never heard of them. Joe, our determined man he is, chops her up. He doesn't like no, apparently. He also it also makes sense because he sexually assaulted her corpse. Joe hears somebody approaching and he freaks out and he throws the remains in a nearby bush, and the person he heard coming was another sex worker, probably wondering where her friend went. And so Joe freaks out and surprise attacks her, killing her instantly. Joe then spots a nearby fisherman, and Joe made up yet another narrative and thinks this innocent fisherman saw everything. So Joe takes a steel pipe and whacks the guy in the head, killing him instantly. And this all happened in the span of 7 hours. So Joe did some work, is what I'm saying. So he chops up one of the homeless guys and puts his head in the ground but leaves his body on the mattress. I never understood that. And then with the other homeless guy, with the other corpses, he buried all of them, but he left the guy's body on his mattress but buried his head. I never understood that. He never went into detail or anything like that of why he buried that guy's head. We'll never know. 2 weeks pass and Joe was linked to the previous murders, and he was arrested and was charged with the 2 homeless men murders. And Joe goes up on trial and he was acquitted, and there was no evidence, so they couldn't do anything, so he was released. While he was out, he would befriend sex workers and would lure them back to his home with drugs and other substances, and would talk to them and then strangle them and dismember them. He would take the meat off of the bones and put them in Tupperware and then put them in a freezer. While he was a truck driver, he also wanted to make more money. So for either drugs or he just wanted to make some quick cash maybe. So he decided to make a little food station where he would sell sandwiches. And whilst he did have pork and beef and roast beef sandwiches, he would also put pieces of his victims in the pork or beef or roast beef, whatever type of meat he had, and then would mix it in, and then he tasted it and he was like, oh yeah, this is the same exact thing. And then he would cook it up and then put it in the sandwiches and then serve it to his customers and stuff. And this went on for several weeks, and a lot of people really loved his sandwiches. And saying that, it feels weird because imagine you're just getting a really good sandwich and then it turns out that Bethany was in there or something. I don't know. It never said anything about the sex workers or the homeless people's names, which I don't know if it's a privacy thing or if they genuinely just didn't know or cared. I don't know. I never know. Anyways, so he would serve his victims to his customers. Eventually, he runs out of meat, so he lures another sex worker, and he knocks her on the head, and he thought she was knocked out, and he looked away for a small second. He turned back, and at some point, she got up and ran away, and he heard her footsteps running away, so he's oh my god. He thought he lost her for good, but then he remembered outside was a tall chain-linked fence. But luckily for the sex worker, there was a stack of wooden boxes, so she climbed those and was able to escape. She runs and runs, and she finds a truck driver, and she tells him a man just tried to kill her. And so she gets in his truck and they drive to a nearby gas station and they phone the police. Joe knew as soon as she escaped that it was game over for him, so he waited outside for the police. And so the police get there, they arrest him, and he goes on for hours and hours talking about like every murder he committed and like how he disposed of the bodies. But like whenever he took them to where the quote unquote bodies were, I don't know why I said quote unquote, but I say words and they come out of my mouth, so anyways, he takes them to where like the bodies were, but there was no like remains of like the bodies, and so they didn't know how many people he actually killed, which is very interesting because like he threw her in a bush, and this happened like, I don't know, maybe months after he threw that lady in the bush. So I'm not sure if like somebody found her and was like, oh my god, there's a lady in the bush. But don't you think like someone would have been like, hey, there's a lady in the bush, and would have contacted like the authorities or something like that? We don't know, because we never know, because nobody said anything. But so yeah, so the police didn't know exactly how many people he killed, but they know he killed people because he confessed to it. So Joe was put on trial, and he was originally going to be put on the death sentence, but that got overturned, and instead he got 2 life sentences. I'm going to finish this up and I'll be right back. Alrighty, here is the finished product. Probably wondering, Dean, what are you making me look at? Is this a pad or something? No, it's not a pad. I know it looks like a pad, but it's not a pad. It's a little mug cozy, because like, you know how like whenever you're drinking coffee and like, this is what I do. I don't drink markers, but I drink my coffee like this. Or like I hold the cup like this, and like it burns my hand. I'm like, ouch. Ouchie, what happened? So, what this thing does, I forgot to put a button on it. There's supposed to be a little button right there. But basically, you just kind of like wrap it around the mug. And it's supposed to like overlap, and like you can button it up. Oh, I'm like not doing this on screen. But like you're supposed to like button it up right around here, and then like you can hold it and it can keep your hand warm, but it's not burning your hand. Thinking outside and inside the box. I got a big head. Anyways. So yeah, this is really fun to make, and it's also going to be really nice to have in like the winter time and stuff, because it's going to be cold, and I also don't want to burn my hand in the winter, because who wants to do that in the winter? Anyways, this story was super crazy and also kind of like nauseating, knowing that people were like eating other people and they didn't know that they were eating other people. Like that's like a huge fear of mine. Well, I know that's like probably a huge fear for like a lot of people, but like no, nuh-uh, nada, zero zilch, no. So yeah, this story was crazy, and I really want to know like what happened to those like bodies, because like they couldn't find any of them, not even the one that was like on the mattress, like on full display. What happened to that guy? But yeah, that was absolutely crazy. I hope you enjoyed this story. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and share with the demons in your closet, share with all of your friends, and yeah, I hope to see you guys next week. Bye!